I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I
I don't
just
know
watched
either.
I just watched a Naruto and it's I don't even have anything against like shonen or shoujo or like any genres or anything like that. Like I just watched a Naruto movie
I I
with
do.
Anissa.
I do.
You do.
Let
That's
let the
you.
record show. I
The
hate
record
shonen
showed he
anime.
hates.
Good evening, Grendizer goes. Welcome to episode 80 of the Laser Comb Podcast, the show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV with a fine-tooth laser. I am, as always, Christopher Siege, one of your hosts.
And I am sometimes NeoCal, your other host.
Sometimes.
Yes. As always, Christopher Siege. Only sometimes NeoCal.
The ever elusive Neo Cal
How
himself.
long can I milk being new Cal? Like it's like new Pepsi. How long can I milk that before I just have to drop the Neo?
And then, I mean, you could go through like all the naming conventions of Pepsi, like classic Pepsi flavors. You can be Cal Max, you can be Crystal Cal.
Okay, so after Neo Cal, like 2024, I should be Crystal Cal, like
Yep.
crystal clear, Crystal
Yeah.
Cal. And then when that runs its course, I'll be Max Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Max Cal, and you can dual wield pistols and put like a slightly too long like leather coat on.
Why are you even wearing a leather coat unless it's slightly too long?
I always found Max Payne's coat interesting because it's not a trench coat, but it's definitely like longer than just a regular coat. It's below waist length.
Oh, you're right. It's like a yeah.
There's
What is that?
there's probably a name for that kind of coat, but I don't know what it is.
Very fashionable, but it's not quite a trench coat.
Yeah,
But it's longer than a blazer. A Max Payne coat.
a Max Payne coat. Maximum pain.
Oh, I'm sending you something that I'm giving you the choice that I was not given myself.
Oh.
What you do with this information is up to you, but I just had to share the stock footage of Vampire Freaks. There's a website I haven't heard of in like a decade.
Scorch leather trench coat. Hey, it's only $200. I guess that's
That's
probably
what I was thinking.
200 US. Probably thin leather.
Or like, yeah, leather. Like it's gonna like react to your body oil and like rain and shit, and like you know how pleather like starts to flake away and there's like nothing you could do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
just gotta throw it away.
I had a pleather trench coat when I was a teenager. It was Highlander branded, actually. It even said Highlander on the tag.
Rad. Remember that my Leon Kennedy like gray and black pleather like jacket I was rocking for a few years?
No, I don't actually.
Yeah, you would always point out you're like Leon Kennedy, and the back all started to like just flake away, and I couldn't wear it without like being like, oh, I'm picking off like little specks for like the rest of the day. And I was like, oh, it's time to toss you into the trash.
So long, Gay Bowser.
Speaking of Gay Bowser.
Speaking of Gay Bowser, this week on the Lasercomb podcast, this is a Siege pick.
It's a Siege pick.
Taking a quick break from Patreon sponsored shows to talk about something that I've wanted to review for a long time. And what it is a show called UFO Robot Grendizer.
rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna explain how this came about. So in 1980, the Grendizer is from like the mid to late 70s, I believe. But in 1980, uh, on US TV, there was a programming block called Force 5. It was different animes that, and I believe each one aired, like a different one aired each day on weekdays, like after school.
Okay, okay.
And they were basically, they were Japanese animes that were taken, rewritten, and dubbed and re-edited using footage from various different episodes. And so Force 5 consisted of Guy King, which was an adaptation of Dino Mecha Guy King.
I have a friend that was his choice. I have a high school friend and
Yeah.
college friend that he's a big Guy King fan.
Another one was Force 5 Dawn Guard Ace, which is an adaptation of Planetary Robot Dawn Guard Ace.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up.
I know. Force 5 Star Vengers, which was an adaptation of Getter Robo G. Force 5 Space Kiteers, which is a adaptation of Sci-Fi West Saga Star Zinger.
Star Zinger.
Yeah. And finally, Force 5 Grendizer, which is a adaptation of UFO Robot Grendizer.
I've forgotten everything you've just said.
Now, I obviously
so a whole bunch of recycled old anime.
Whole bunch of recycled and repurposed like old anime from the 70s that aired for one TV season in 1980.
Huh.
Which, so I obviously I wasn't alive in 1980, so I didn't like grow up watching this Force 5 programming block. But when I was around 4 or 5 years old, so we're talking like 35 years ago now, I remember getting a Betamax tape of Star Vengers, Getter Robo G, and Grendizer, UFO Robot Grendizer. And I used to watch
we're going back. You got a Betamax tape.
I know. I used to watch the living shit out of these when I was a little kid. I'll probably want to do Getter Robo G at some point too. Yeah, so it's this like Betamax was already like a dead format at that point, but like it still was pretty common because I think Betamax had only died out as a format like a couple of years earlier prior to that. So it was still pretty common to find like Betamax tapes in like bargain bins at video stores.
Video stores or even like pawn shops or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I got Betamax tapes of Grendizer and Star Vengers. And indeed, I even had I had a couple of Grendizer toys too that I had found at yard sales, which I didn't weren't things that I specifically sought out, but I'm like, hey, it's Grendizer. Mom, buy this for me. Yeah. I had a couple of Grendizer toys.
Yeah, I was born later in the 80s, and I never saw. I completely missed out on the Betamax
and the Grendizer train. So this was literally the first anime I've ever seen.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It's 50-50 between this and Star Vengers, but Grendizer I tended to watch more often than Star Vengers, so I'm just saying going with Grendizer. Grendizer was the first anime that I ever watched.
I couldn't even tell you the first. Oh, that's a deep dive. I'm wondering if I have just a terrible memory of my youth because my youth was terrible and there's massive gaps in it, or just nothing was interesting, or just maybe like trauma blocking. I don't know, but like, man, I barely remember anything before I was 10, let alone the first anime I watched. First anime. It probably no. The first like Pokemon was much later. I liked Monster Ranchers, but that followed the coattails of that show, I think. Like Digimon and like Monster Ranchers. That all came after Pokemon, right?
Not too long
And that was
after,
like
but yeah.
mainstream. And then there's Dragon Ball, but like again, just random TV stuff. Yeah, I couldn't place mine.
Hmm.
I don't think so. But yeah, it's cool that you actually remember your first anime and it was like given to you on this archaic form of a video display.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always had like a weird memory for like things like that.
Yeah, you've always had like a really good memory for dates too.
Yeah.
Yeah, not me. Someone's like, "Oh, when did you meet this person?" And I'm like, "I don't know, 3 to 6 years ago." And they're like, "What?"
6 to 9 years ago.
6 to 9 years ago. Nice.
So yeah, the version of Grendizer we're watching isn't the Force 5 version, just because I couldn't track that down. But we're watching the original UFO Robot Grendizer, the original Japanese version. And the
No
episode
remix.
the episode
Nice.
that we landed on was episode 4, which originally aired on October 26th of 1975. Young Blood, Burning Crimson is the name of the episode.
Young blood, burning crimson.
Young Blood, Burning Crimson.
I've
And,
discovered that the names of the episodes have nothing to do with what is happening in the episode.
nope.
That's a good way to start the review off, folks.
So, yeah, on that note, folks,
Don't
sometimes
say it. Don't.
sometimes nostalgia lets you down. I'm just gonna say that.
It happened to me, and it can happen to you.
It happened to
Um,
me, and it'll happen to you.
yeah, I bit that bullet real hard when I had some super bitter member berries when we watched I don't think it was my pick though, but it was definitely going to be my pick when we watched
Tripping the Rift.
Tripping the Rift.
It was a Patreon pick, but it was a show that you had talked about wanting
Mentioned
to do.
repeatedly. And I think that was much worse than what this show is to you. But I'm
Probably, yeah.
maybe it's a bad maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here.
See, Tripping the Rift was just, I found, offensively terrible. This show, on the other hand,
It
it's
wasn't even
bad.
funny. Yeah, yeah.
This show, on the other hand, is bad, but it's bad in like almost amusing ways.
It's bad in the like the painful awareness that they had no budget. Kind of like bad. The bad and the did was every 5 minutes of this directed by a completely different person who didn't see the previous 5 minutes of the episode because there are well we'll get into it but like the leaps of logic that you need to take in order to make the episode make sense are I
um,
I don't know.
yeah,
And in that sense it almost touches the so bad it's good.
almost.
Almost. Almost. But unfortunately there's no self-awareness
No.
that makes it cross that line.
So the episode opens with an old man up in a water
Old
tower.
man yelling at clouds.
Oh, literally yelling at clouds. Talking about how it's his mission to get the attention of all the flying UFOs out there.
So right away, as someone who's not seen the show, I'm like, okay, so there's a crazy conspiracist living on a farm screaming at the sky. And every once in a while, he actually does see aliens. And they're like, okay, old man Peterson, put down the booze. And the scene goes on just way too long.
It does, yeah.
He's just yelling back and forth to the point where he's waking up everyone else on the farm.
And, well, indeed, his daughter and her little brother. I'm guessing it's his daughter. I don't know.
I was like, who are these people?
Yeah. They end up having to it's good that they woke up because they end up having to go to school, and because a school bus pulls up and the door opens and the bus driver is like, hey, get in, we gotta go. And I shit
Get in,
you
losers,
not.
we're going to school.
Yeah. And I shit you not. as soon as they go into the bus, it cuts the camera, the shot cuts to inside the bus to a completely different bus driver.
Which I did not catch. But one thing I caught is they don't have the. I understand the budget for extra cells in animation is astronomical. There's no one else on the bus,
Yeah.
which, if you've gone to school in rural places, is actually pretty normal.
Mm.
There were like four people on my bus when I went to school when I lived in Farmlandia, which I think the yeah, when I lived outside of Rosedale or whatever.
Random.
A place named Rosedale sounds like a yeah, it is random.
A place named Rosedale just sounds like a hell of a good time.
Or a place where the zombie outbreak happens, or both.
Yeah, or both.
So yeah, the
Speaking,
kids get on this bus, different driver in each scene, and what's going on here? Oh, we cut to my favorite racial stereotype. It
yes. So we have some like dude who is apparently lives in the farm like next to theirs, uh, who is a total like racial caricature of like
caricature. There we go.
yeah of like a Mexican stereotype.
And at first, I was like, "Am I wrong, or is he wearing a poncho? He
And a
has like
sombrero.
he has like bad like patchy like facial hair, and he has a sombrero on, like attached to his like back. So for whatever reason, whatever country they're in, which I thought would have been Japan, but I guess not, there's a really bad racial caricature of a Mexican neighbor who is lamenting that he missed the bus because he wanted to follow the the
the
girl
the the teenage girl
to
who was presumably going to high school.
going to some sort of school. Yeah, because like the boy's like young, like elementary school, and she's not quite whatever. They're going to school, and he missed the bus, and I'm like, why does this 40-year-old man, does he go to school? I don't. Weird place to jump in. Doesn't. But anyways, as he's going to take a shortcut by like trespassing, um, I guess he can't see because there's just a hole dug in the ground as he hops the fence, and he falls in this
Into this pit,
into this pit with water.
which it turns out was a trap actually laid by the old man because he didn't want him cutting through his property.
And then the shot zooms out, and there's no other holes, and it's very clear that, by the way, this fence is just like a log fence,
Mm-hmm.
like it's waist high. He could have seen the pit, but he didn't, and so he jumped into it. And who helps him out? Doesn't somebody help him out of the pit?
Yeah, there's Duke, the alien guy
Yeah,
who
I didn't even know he was an alien until later on in the episode.
if I recall correctly, in the Force 5 version that I had on Betamax when I was a little kid, his name was Johnny.
That's a more classic American name.
Yes. But
Uh,
here his name is Duke.
that's a very I'm an alien and I need to choose a name for myself name.
So there's Duke, and then I don't know, there's some dude in a blue suit who's not an alien, but he also
Working on the
has
farm.
but he also has his own UFO.
Koji?
Koji, yeah.
Yeah. But his is like made in a cave with spare parts. Like his is they even talk at some point when he's like, "Oh, I need to go after the mini FO." Um the little flying saucers that scout for the aliens. They
Right.
call them mini FOs. He's like, "Oh, I equipped it with some missiles." And I'm like, "Some missiles? What the fuck? You went to your local, like, where is this, Russia? You just went to the local market and bought like fighter jet missiles?" I don't know how rich these farm kids are. And I think Koji is also one of the kids of this farmer dude, but like an adult, like who
Yeah,
doesn't
that
go to
was kind of
school.
that was the vibe that I got too. And so they help out uh Mexican neighbor guy.
they help out Mexican neighbor, and then a weird long conversation about the deteriorating state of the road. Um,
Yeah. So Mexican neighbor is all like is getting chastised by old man for like cutting through his property, and he's like, "Well, I have to because the bus doesn't come to my farm." And then the old man goes on about how the reason why it doesn't go to his farm is because like the road to his farm he has let fall into like complete disrepair. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, "What the fuck does this have to do with anything?"
what did there's like 2 minutes of fighting aliens and like 25 minutes of people talking about things that don't relate to aliens or the show whatsoever.
Yeah.
I shit you not, the camera even like kind of pans out as the old man gestures towards the road that leads to Mexican neighbor's house. And they like drew or they like show that there's like it's overgrown and there's like dirt everywhere and there's potholes and stuff like that. And I'm like, what? What the fuck? What am I watching? I
What does this have to do with anything? And
and
so
you could watch any 5 minutes of this and be mistaken to think that this is a slice of life, like living out in the country anime.
well,
You
and
know, before the old man like helps Koji like jumpstart his UFO.
well, and speaking of the old man, so the old man like does the the rational thing and like
Oh, I forgot about this.
quite literally escalates the situation between him and Mexican neighbor to attempted murder.
So what ends up happening is Mexican neighbor starts running down the no, wants to get to school faster because he
Yeah,
missed the bus, and he runs and he steals a horse because they're like they live on a ranch.
yeah.
And the dad is like, horse thief, stop, stop. Oh, you won't get away with this, you piece of shit. And now a scene, by the way, this scene is longer than any UFO battle in the like I, this whole anime, you could have convinced me up to this point that this whole anime is just about like this old rancher man and his like shitty neighbors. I and his psychotic reactions to be fair, horse thievery is like a pretty serious like crime. So he gets on a horse and chases him and lassos him off the other horse like fucking Red Dead Redemption,
Around the neck, tries to hang him
and
in a
then
tree.
and then drags him for like 100 feet to the like what's it called when you're like dragging someone behind a vehicle or a horse like that? That's really illegal. So he drags him by the neck
And
over to a tree.
tries to lynch him.
Actually, people,
Like
he throws the other end over and then like gets ready to pull, and I'm like, dude, the Mexican guy's bigger than you. That's not how physics work. And
right.
he starts pleading with the old man not to kill him. And then, if you thought you had this show figured out, the bus pulls up. It came back, I guess. And the kids get out of the bus and they're like, hey, dad, stop trying to kill our Mexican neighbor. And he's like, but he stole a horse. And it's like, don't you think that the local authorities would try you for this is actual dialogue? I'm not exaggerating here.
For
Everything
murder.
we've said is true. Don't you think the local authorities would charge you for murder?
Yeah.
And then the dad gets angry and upset and lets go of the. Oh, and I is this the part where the audience laughs? I'm like, and he's like, okay, fine, I won't lynch our Mexican neighbor today. What the? Good thing the bus driver like came back. Which is probably a third different bus driver at this point. Who fucking knows? These kids.
Oh.
And this is like
This is
half
the
of
first like
episode.
5 minutes of the episode.
Oh, sorry, not half of the episode. This is like, yeah, this is minute to minute. You cannot. I will give it this. You cannot possibly predict what the next minute is going to be about.
And so we get introduced to like the evil bad. He's some like evil alien guy, and
Name's Blackie.
Whose name is Blackie.
He's a dark-skinned, evil gremlin-looking dude. who's trying to kill Grendizer, and his name's Blackie.
And he seems to be taking orders from some woman who emerges from a dude's face.
So there's a golem who can talk and seems to have his own personality, his own identity, but this small little red dressed and red haired woman with like long red hair emerges from the face repeatedly, like some gag joke, to
Yeah.
like say her 2 cents before the golem's face closes and she retreats back inside.
It's like a
And all three of them are having a conversation, but every time she talks, the face opens.
it's like a cuckoo clock.
Yes,
Yeah.
kind of. The face opens, she says some shit, it closes, the fucking golem says some shit, the other guy says some shit, and this is how they have a conversation. I'm like, lady, leave. Get out of your mech, your golem thing. Also, why is she small? Or are they really big? I don't know.
I don't know. The show doesn't give you any indication. It could be both.
She could be really small and they could be really big.
Yeah.
But anyways, they literally say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go and just wreck shit and blow stuff up
To find
in the
Grendizer.
last place. In the last place that Grendizer was, to make him show up. That's our trap.
By the way, the villain's motivation for everything in this show appears to just be, we need to destroy Grendizer. Why? Because Grendizer good, we bad.
The amount of resources, yeah. The amount of resources that they lose trying to fight must be in the billions per week. Because they lose a lot of spaceships trying to fight this guy. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's established throughout the anime or whatever, but like you watch a random episode of Power Rangers and like you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like she wants to take over the world. She reminds you every episode. Rita.
Yeah, yeah.
Her plans for world domination, but the Power Rangers stand in her way.
Yeah. Power Rangers keep getting in the way. And so once they decide to like go all like completely scorched earth.
Oh, by the way, they actually go and attack like a city full of like presumably tens of thousands of people, and you see whole skyscrapers, whole cityscapes in ruins with like really bad like background like animations of like thousands or hundreds of people running away. Like they're killing thousands of people.
Yeah.
And that seems to that doesn't concern Duke Grandizer's pilot.
Yeah.
Or like the organization he's working for, but it does concern Koji. So he like a lawnmower like tries to start up his old like shitty like homemade flying saucer, and he gets his dad to push it.
Yeah.
Like kind of like you're trying to get like a vehicle like going.
So he goes to presumably what is Grendizer HQ. They call it something in the show. I can't remember. Like the space like space defense force or something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. It's not that exactly, but it's something
it's
like
that.
It's like
In a dam or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in a dam. So he goes there, and Duke is there along with a character they call Professor.
Yeah.
And
and at least in the very least, I'm like, oh, say no more. I know what's going on here.
So the professor like gives Duke and Koji like the lowdown on like what the Vega army, those are the names of the aliens, what they're up to. And for some reason, for reasons that weren't particularly clear, Duke says like, oh, I'll go deal with it. And Koji is like, no, we can't risk it. I'll take care of this. And Duke's like, okay, sure.
So while they're killing thousands of people, like a big ass city is being like razed to the ground to lure Grandizer out, Koji goes home. Please take your time. Race home on a horse or whatever you're doing. Gets up his shitty like UFO, homemade UFO, which his dad literally helps him get into the air by pushing.
Yep.
And he
It's
goes
like push
and
starting a car with
yeah,
standard transmission.
yeah, he's push starting a car, and he goes and fights some aliens and does pretty well. And my favorite part about this, where I actually went and I actually like laughed out loud, is Koji's dodging lasers as one does.
Yep.
Uh, like the maybe they're plasma bolts or whatever, but he's dodging them. But he's shooting more advanced UFOs, mind you, out of the air with missiles. I feel like that doesn't track.
No.
I feel like if you can dodge a laser or plasma shots or whatever with these UFOs, you could dodge lasers presumably moving at the speed of light. Well, let's say they're plasma bolts. Um, but he's kicking their butt until he isn't.
Until he isn't, and he gets shot down, and he
Well, he
crashes.
gets netted, which made me laugh a second
Oh,
fucking
right,
time.
right. It's this like energy net, this glowing like energy net.
Lasers that travel at the speed of light. No, no, no. let's catch him with a big energy net, and then they just like cook him. He's just
Yeah.
trapped in this net in the air, and all the UFOs like surround him and just shoot their beams at him. And he's like, ah. And then for whatever reason, they let him out of the net.
And he crashes on an island. And from there, Duke, back at Grendizer HQ, is all like, or the professor is like, oh, we lost his signal. We can't find him. And then Duke is like, I'll go save him. Grendizer, go. And it's like, okay, so like, why didn't you just go out to be like, was the whole thing with Koji being like, no, you stay here, just specifically so he could get shot down, like in the plot, and have Duke come and save him?
Were they like testing his piloting skills?
Well, and then
Meanwhile, there's like, go help the fucking like search and rescue at least. There's like a whole city. They don't even talk about the city, by the way, anymore. It just shows like the city in fucking ruins on fire, right? No, get fucked, people.
yeah,
And so Grandizer goes out to help him. And
and Koji,
earlier in the episode, he slipped something in Koji's pocket. And I'm like, what the fuck? Did he just cop a feel? Which we now find out was a tracking device.
oh, okay, I missed that.
And he wasn't able to communicate with HQ because there's no cell towers on the island, that the ham radio doesn't work or whatever. But Duke can find him because of the tracking device.
Because of the tracking device. And
Yeah.
indeed, Koji is fucking hurt. Like he gets out of the ship, he's
I'll
like
give the show,
limping, he's bleeding out. Like
it's actually showing blood. Yeah, so he's got internal organ damage. He's holding his arm, which presumably his like shoulder or collarbone or something is shattered,
yeah.
right? And he's like limping, and there's this part where he's like looking up at the sun, and he's like, "Oh man, what a way to die!" And I'm like, "Don't look at the sun." Like, there's a shot where it shows the sun, it shows his face, it shows the sun, and he's like, "Wow, what a way to die!" And I'm like, on a island paradise, like staring at the sun, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta," and he starts like sweating because the sun's so hot on this island, and I
Yeah.
guess, and he's like, I gotta repair the ship," and so he just like starts repairing it, I guess.
He tries to, yeah.
He
And
tries
so
to.
Duke shows up to rescue Koji. And as Koji is like
Passing out in his arms.
passing out, is like bleeding out, and presumably has like internal hemorrhaging going on. Duke's first thought isn't to take him back to Grendizer HQ and get him immediate medical attention.
Wait, yeah. That's a good fucking point.
No, what he does is
As Koji wakes up,
he dives into the water and goes fishing and has a fucking cookout on the beach as Koji is dying.
so Koji regains consciousness as the sun is setting, still clutching his like chest and arm, and looks over, and Duke, they're both in their like Super Sentai like outfits, by the way.
Yeah.
There's like a little fire pit and like a little what's it called? Spit with like a fish or something on it. And he's like, "Oh wow, who would have thought?" Like how does an alien know how to cook fish and clams? And okay, one, this is fucking stupid. Bring him back. He needs medical
Yeah.
like care. And I made the joke. This is we were going back and forth as because I was like live reacting to this with Christopher. Um, I was like, oh, it's like D&D, you know? You just use some camp supplies, rest for the night, and have a long rest, and your HPs all come back.
All wounds are healed.
All all wounds are healed. And he's like, well, yeah. And so from that point on, this scene, I will give the show credit for, is probably the only deep thing. Maybe every episode has a moment like this, but he's like, oh, well, like, see your star like setting, and he's like, yeah, he's like, oh, it looks just like it, sunset looks just like it does on my planet. And he's like, so what you're saying is like you have oceans and stuff where you're from, and like the oceans and stuff have like fish and other things. And he's like, that's right, my dude.
Yep.
And they point to what maybe I wasn't paying attention to, a star. And he's like, and we have the like, that's the brightest star in our sky too.
Yeah, and
Like,
he's
I
like,
don't know, there's like a, yeah.
we call it the blah blah star. What do they call it on your planet? Why, we called it the blah blah star on my planet too.
And
Actual
then they
fucking
go,
dialogue.
ah, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, I've never heard of this. Like, it's not the North Star. It's not like Polaris. They call it
They call it,
like
I
something
can't even
else.
remember what they call
Yeah.
it.
Or maybe we're just ignoramuses and it's the same. It is a real star. But apart from like the really bad dialogue, and we didn't watch a dub. Like, we didn't watch like this Tune 5 like thing. Like, we watch it in Japanese with subtitles. Um that way we get the real scoop. But well, wouldn't you know it, as they're reminiscing about the stars and the sun is like setting and they could see stars coming out, the brightest stars you could see first as the sun goes down. Oh gosh, it's time to spring the trap. But here's the weird thing, and I skipped this and I wanted to point it out because it's another thing that made me laugh. As Grandizer's approaching the island before he saves Koji, um, the aliens, the Blackie,
Yeah. The vegans.
the vegans, if you will, the vegans are like, oh, he's fallen right for our trap. We'll watch for now, and we'll spring our trap later. Fucking why? What do you mean watch? Like fapping in a corner, watching. Do you remember that? We'll
They
watch for now, and I'm like, okay, so that they can have this heartwarming moment as the sun sets. Thanks, vegans.
the aliens in the show literally are called the vegans. The vegan army, led by King Vega. And also led by Generals Blackie and Gandalf.
So Blackie and Gandalf are leading the vegans, and there's a sentence that's never been said before. And so now they spring their trap. How nice of them to allow this like cool bonding moment between Koji and Duke. And there's actually some cool scenes as like Duke is fighting the aliens on foot and struggling to get back to his ship. Like, he's like punching them and throwing them over and like hiding, and they've got ray guns and stuff. But he does get back to the ship.
He does get back to the ship, and it's Grendizer go time.
We didn't talk about Goro Goro.
Oh yeah, Goro Goro, the monster.
Goro Goro is a Beyblade with spikes on the sides. But also, two dragon heads come out of the top and bottom, or the sides, depending on how he's oriented.
Yeah. So that's the monster that General Blackie
has General Blackie
against. Lawless.
And by the way, we're not like doing a play on, is it Lawless? Doing a play on words. Like, they phonetically they say that.
Blackie Lawless is the name of a singer.
Oh.
I think he's the I think he's the front man of Wasp.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, Blackie Lawless is an American singer, songwriter, and musician, best known as the lead singer and rhythm guitarist for heavy metal band Wasp. So General Blackie
Cool.
Lawless.
So there we go. And Duke hates metal. There we go. That's why they're after them.
Yeah. Anyway, so we find out that I think this is the first time we see that Grendizer is not only a UFO robot, but is not only a UFO, but is also a UFO robot. So a robot body comes out of the flying saucer.
And yeah, it doesn't transform. It comes
It comes
out
out of
of,
the saucer, yeah.
and you can kind of see its head poking out when you can
And
see the toys.
and its arms are very like comically wrapped around the saucer.
You could tell they made the toy and then like made the anime to emulate how the toy would fit into it, right?
Right.
Um what's hilarious is the screen, it starts playing like music with like a Japanese man singing. Um as was the fashion at the time. Go Grandizer, go, like that kind of like music.
Yeah.
And that weird tube scene where it shows like him go down, the chair rotates and he goes into the head.
Yeah.
And then later on when he gets back in the UFO, it shows it like do the opposite thing. And I'm like, is
Well,
that important?
it's a pretty iconic thing from Grandizer. Folks,
It is, yeah.
there was a Grandizer video game that just came out a few months ago that I actually really want to play. And even in the game, like he does the chair like goes down and into like the robot head. But if you notice, so the chair is at like the top,
Yeah.
is at the top of the
And it
head,
goes down.
and it goes down a like a tunnel.
Yeah.
The chair, when it gets to the bottom of the tunnel, the chair turns around, goes forward, and then turns back forward again, and then
I
goes.
yeah,
At, so it's like, why did the chair need to rotate when it hit the bottom?
I I wasn't going to talk about that, but it's a nitpicky detail I fucking noticed like right away. And I'm like, one, why not just have the cockpit in the head all the time?
Yeah.
And two, because
What?
like he can only fly the UFO when Grendizer's in it.
Yeah.
And like, why does he do this weird
Actually,
spiral?
I think the saucer is like remote controlled when Grendizer when the robot isn't in it. That's just me going
Okay,
by
okay.
memory from watching the show like literally like 35 years ago.
Now I'll give it this. There's a part where Grendizer is thrown onto the ground, and I sent you in the Discord. I sent the screenshot. There are lots of close-up shots of the UFO when it's in like roly-poly mode with its spikes out, slamming into Grendizer's groin.
Yeah.
Did you notice that too? Like a lot. There's
Yeah.
one where he's on the ground and it's like hitting him. I posted that in the Discord. Um, yeah, there it is.
Grendai in typical like Japanese anime fashion, Duke yells out the names of attacks that Grendizer do, and they're so fucking stupid. Like one of them is literally shoulder blades. It's like
So when
really,
he finally starts like amping up and like fighting back, this epic music starts playing. Ho, 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 ho. And he just starts using all the moves. And I guess it was really popular at the time to just name all of these different moves. But yeah, one is just those little decorative like blade things on his shoulders. He just has shoulder blades, and he shoot out like boomerangs and land back on his on his shoulders.
and then something completely perplexing happens. So the Goru is like getting the upper hand against Grendizer. Grendizer is like on the
Right.
ground. And then Koji
You're gonna
shows up.
finish him off
They're gonna finish him off. Koji shows
on
up with this
foot.
tiny ass like little grenade and says that he's like, hold it. There's enough explosives in this to blow up this entire island.
If you kill me, it'll go off.
And for whatever reason, Blackie Lawless is like, Goru, stand down. And I'm like, why do you give a flying fuck about blowing up this
This isn't
island?
their base, by the way,
No, this is just a
listeners. Like this
random
is just
island.
a random island. And the reason they're on the island is because Koji led all the aliens away from civilization to fight them over the open water, uninhabited
Yeah.
areas.
But it's like they've been going all like scorched earth, like for the
Oh
entire
yeah,
episode. So who, like,
I,
Koji is just holding up like this little grenade, and
or something.
Blackie is like, "Oh, hold on, stand down."
Whoa, 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 dude, don't do anything crazy, dude. We all want to walk out of here alive, right? And he's like, I'll do it. I'm fucking crazy. I'll do it. And I'm like, what? Like, but like, you guys are in UFOs. You just fly up into the air and
Yeah.
and so he gets them to stand down long enough, and then Grendizer's like, psych, losers, and gets up and like does all of his moves, all of his like super moves, and
Shoulder
like
blades.
shoulder blades, and then like lightning, like the
The
lightning
horns.
shoots off of his head. That's his like finishing move. And then when the aliens are, Blackie's like, curse you, Grendizer, you've beaten us again. And he retreats. And there's a bro moment between Koji and Duke where he's like, man, those are some fancy things. Those are way more advanced and cool than my missiles. And he goes, you're all right, kid. You're all right. And
Yeah.
then they fly back? Question mark. The ship is repaired, and they both fly back, and they're
Yeah.
in Grendizer and shitty homemade UFO.
Yeah, it's even shittier than the UFO that Blair was rebuilding in John Carpenter's The Thing.
We'll never know because we never saw that thing fly around.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happens at the end of the episode, but that's basically the gist of
I
everything.
don't either. They fly away, and I'm sure some stuff happens after that.
And they all lived happily ever after. Anyway, that
I want to
was
know if Mexican Neighbor caught up to high school daughter and why he wanted to do that in the first place. We'll never know.
we'll never know. And on that note, Cal, you just caught a random episode of
I sure did.
of UFO Robot Grendizer. Are you going to be tuning in again?
Okay. I'll preface this. So we have fun deconstructing this, but I will never ever watch another episode of Grendizer from the 70s. It's being rebooted.
I'll check that out. Yeah.
There's ridiculous parts in it, like him being attacked by a giant spiked yo-yo in the crotch for multiple shots in different camera angles, which is weird that they would specifically the crotch. It's very strange.
There's a lot of head scratching moments in this show.
And they clearly can animate cool robot battles that show damage. But like the bluff with the grenade, what? It's just, it feels like it was one dude. I don't know. It's just wild that like no 5 minutes connect to the next 5 minutes. And from what I've seen of 70s anime, that's kind of part of the course.
Mm-hmm.
I this what about you? Would you tune in next week?
Absolutely not. I'm glad I got the opportunity to revisit this some 35 years after I used to watch it as a young child, but
what an episode though. We have abusive father, lynching,
attempted murder,
horse thieving, vegan genocide,
deciding to go fishing and have a beach front cookout while your friend is dying.
Yeah, maybe Duke doesn't understand what is lethal for humans, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, your like kidneys are just are punctured." And then he's like, Duke, that can kill us. Duke's like, oh, I just thought you'd, then you wouldn't be able to pee through them anymore. But we don't pee out of our kidneys. What? And it's also weird because like Duke and Koji are like drawn as like beautiful boys. And then the girl is like a beautiful girl. And then the caricature of the dad and the little child, like the dad's this short, grumpy, like balding, ugly, like looking like thing. Same with like Mexican neighbor. So much of the episode had nothing to do with what I assume the show is about. That it,
Yeah, most of the episode had nothing to do with UFOs, robots, or Grendizer. Literally the name of the show.
he is in Grendizer in the last 5 minutes of the episode,
Yeah.
if that. And half the time he's being like like crotch attacked by like a giant spiky dragon yo-yo. But hey,
Baffling
you got shoulder
choices.
blades.
Shoulder blades.
And
Some,
oh,
ba-
I
some
remember when
baffling
the dragon
choices.
heads flew off of the necks and could independently fly around and bite him. My favorite is when it bites him around the neck, and Duke is like, struggling to like pull it off of his neck, and I'm like, it's a robot neck. Why are you acting like you're choking?
Right. uh, I like the struggle, okay.
I like to. It's called being immersed. Filthy casuals. How do you pilot your giant Mac?
Well, we'll never know. Anyway, that was episode 80 of the Lasercomb podcast. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. LAZORCOMB. Uh, $5 tier gets you a commentary track, an exclusive podcast, and the ability to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast. So if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. Join our Discord. There's a link in the description, as always, of every single episode. And Cal, you got anything you want to plug?
Anything I want to plug? Yeah, join our Discord. I don't know about Siege, but I'm kind of like checked out of social media in ye old 2020s. We actually like respond and interact on Discord. Um, I'm on Dork Tales. On Wednesday nights, I play Vampire the Masquerade in costume, voice acting, all of that stuff. Um, yeah, other than that, like there's this clips of the show that Siege edits on TikTok, which I actually think are pretty good. I'm on TikTok as Neo_Cal with a K, and yeah, I'm Neo Mini FO, which I just realized I forgot I changed my name.
Oh, I had no idea.
I'm Neo Mini FO, and your Siege dicer go.
Siege Dizer, go! Oh, Neo, mini UFO. Minufu.
And but since Siege just chose a show, I pulled up ye old list of things that I want to watch together, and it has a bunch of movies and TV shows on it. And I was like, you know what? Gargoyles,
Gargoyles.
long awaited, but we're
I've
doing it.
I've got stuff to say about gargoyles, I assure you.
Oh shit!
All
Stuff to
right.
say.
Now, to figure out which episode of Gargoyles we're gonna watch, gonna hit screen share.
Looks like there's 78 dun 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 episodes.
Yeah, one random number between 1 and 78. Here we go.
Here we go.
Where it stops. Hopefully not in season 3, because season 3 apparently isn't very good. 36.
36. Solidly in season 2.
Um,
Oh, geez.
32.
A
Season
part
2.
three, huh?
Episode.
Or
Say
did you roll
what?
36 or 32?
36. Oh,
Oh,
shit.
okay.
Oh, Avalon part. No, okay, we're re-rolling.
We so long ago we used to suffer through multi parts, but suffer we shall not.
No, I don't have the patience for that anymore.
No. It's also awkward.
37. Shit, you're
There
not.
you go. Perfect. Just go up one.
Just go up one. Okay, so 37 in a row. Uh,
37 in a row. Shadows of the past.
The Magic of Avalon, as the first episode of the Avalon World Tour story arc in Gargoyle, sends the travelers, Goliath, Angela, Bronx, and Elisa, to where they, quote, need to be. And they
Huh?
land on the shores of the ruins of Castle Wyvern. Okay, well,
If you say so.
there you have it. Oh, shit. I'm hitting the wrong buttons here. Anyway, we'll be back not next week because I'm going out of town. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks with that. And until then, I've been the Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal, your other host.
Thanks for listening. We will grandize
We'll
grandizer
shoulder
you.
blade you later.
We'll shoulder blade you next week. Bye bye.